Okay. Happy Sunday. We're back. We're Week 10 recapping. Myself, David Quist, my lovely co-host, per usual, KB Kirk Brown. Promo guy was going to make an entrance today to recap with us, but he had some obligations to handle. So shout out to him. Thanks for being on. We had a good amount of listens this week, so shout out everybody. Welcome back for the recaps. It was a hell of a weekend, in my opinion, for football. How we doing, KB?
We're doing good, yeah. To kind of carry on what Dave said, thank you for all the new listeners that I'm sure have came over from TikTok. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Leave reviews, leave comments, anything that you guys think that we can help. We're new to this and the season's ending, but we have at least a month to 2 months after the regular season ends where we're still going to be covering stuff and
Yes.
going into kind of the deep dive. So just thank you guys for that and another wonderful weekend of football, another load of close games. And I think this is the first weekend since the first two weekends where both of our teams
It's
won.
been a long
So we get
road.
to come in here proud. Now, granted, our Air Force team, you
Ugh,
sacrificed them. You wore the Air Force shirt
I did.
and they ended up losing. So you gave them up so MSU could win. You made a sacrifice.
I
So
did.
appreciate that. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about the games this week. There's a lot of fun games. I think we learned a lot about a bunch of different teams. And I'm excited to recap. So what are we starting off with, Dave?
Yes. We're going to go first game we all covered. We all picked Texas here to cover, which they did not, but they won 23 at the time. I don't have the new rankings, so I won't say any rankings going forward. But Texas edges out Kansas State in overtime with a stop, like on the 5 yard line, 33-30. When I watched the highlights for this one, I thought Malik Murphy looked okay at times. He really tried to force the ball in a lot on some throws where he just shouldn't. He should just eat it or check down. I just thought he was trying to do too much. Like we said earlier, Jonathan Brooks as well had a good game, 22 carries, 112 and a touchdown. Um, and the deciding factor, or what made it a close game, I should say, was at the end of the third quarter, at the beginning of the fourth quarter, Kansas State had like three touchdowns out of nowhere. Um, some fluky weird plays and touchdowns like bang bang bang, and then it was a tie game where they should have been up by one, but they missed a PAT or something, and kind of a weird game towards the end. They missed a field goal, and then they made it as time expired to go to overtime, and then Texas' defense kind of stepped up. I thought Mitchell for Texas had a good game, 8 catches, 150, and a touchdown. And Kansas State was tough per usual, but they just didn't have enough at the end here. I thought it was a fun game that I saw through the highlights.
Yeah, it was definitely a tale of two halves kind of game. Texas came out, they looked good. They're up 17-7, and even the seven was kind of like, man, this game could be 24-0. Some more red zone issues for Texas kind of peeked their head in. Then we get to the third quarter, uh, and they get up 27-7,
Yeah.
and just turnovers and sloppy play. I think there must have been 4 or 5 false starts that took Texas just out of position. Then there'd be a false start, then a hold, and now it's first and 25 with a guy making his second start of his career. And I think Texas played their worst football game, and they were able to win. And for a long time, Texas wasn't able to win these games. And
Mm-hmm.
granted, you aren't really happy with how they're playing football right now. Their offense isn't necessarily clicking on all cylinders. I still like their defense. Kansas State, when given anything other than a super short field, didn't move the ball
No.
much at all during the day.
They didn't run.
It was
They didn't run well at all either. So that's
yeah,
a good thing to
it was
see.
most yeah, it was mostly turnovers. I mean, uh, that kind of helped them. Kansas State had a few turnovers as well, but the two interceptions. Malik Murphy, he looked settled, and then Kansas State started throwing some more unique looks defensively, and I think he got hurried and just made some bad decisions,
Yeah.
and those bad decisions nearly caught them. But still at the end of the day, Texas wins this game. It's a huge win for them. This is by far their toughest game that they had remaining on their schedule. They have TCU, Iowa State, and Texas Tech.
And
Those
Iowa State just lost to Kansas.
yeah,
So
those three teams are kind of middling and fighting around for 500 status. So looks like Texas might be the Big 12 team.
mhm.
You really would like to see Ewers get back. The sooner the better. Mostly just because Murphy isn't there with getting through his reads yet, and they kind of had to rely on some other things. One of the big things too is Adonai Mitchell. His production has definitely jumped since Murphy got in there,
Yeah.
and Worthy isn't getting the ball thrown to as much. Worthy is a much more quick twitch athlete, where I think his routes might not be as like he's maybe running to the 10.5 yard line, but it's because he knows he can create separation. So his usage has kind of gone down. Where Adonai Mitchell, who's another great receiver, had 149, like you were saying, went up. But when you can escape with a win, you escape with a win, and you know. 3 weeks from now, when we're at the end of the season, no one's going to care that they played a close game against a top 25
Uh,
at the time team.
Kansas State's always tough, in my opinion. Do we think Murphy? We kind of talked about this. Do you think Murphy got better, or I don't know? I just feel like he throws a good ball, in my opinion. When he's got time, I think he's just not good at making reads, like you said. And he had a couple throws where he really forced it in there. I can see him being a good quarterback in a year or two, though. Honestly, I don't know if he stays at Texas. Obviously, he's got Arch and Quinn, but I can see him being a pretty good quarterback if he stays or goes somewhere else.
Yeah, I think with him, the issue is that he just isn't comfortable fully yet in the system.
Hmm.
And some of his throws, I mean, he's a huge, tall dude, so I expected more fastballs. And I saw a lot of him trying to feather stuff and put more air under it, which I'm sure is like a point in practice because, like, you got to get over the. And I mean, I think he could have had 5 interceptions on the day. Like, there
Yeah.
were some really, really dangerous passes, but you also saw him a few times just like, wow, that's a huge recruit throw. That's a big arm throw. That's a
Yeah.
tremendous throw, and it's just finding the consistency. I mean, he plays this game and they don't throw those 2 picks and give him short fields. I think they
They
win by
blow him out.
17. Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of the thing where you had a productive game running from your running backs. And it's just kind of limiting the mess ups. He just needs to manage the game, and some of his throws just are a little green, right? Throws that maybe you made in high school, throws that maybe you get away with
Hmm.
against second and scout teamers in practice, but throws that you need to know when the windows are closing that quickly to not do that,
Yeah.
to just kind of get over them. And then, like I said, another sloppy game in terms of penalties for Texas. They had a bunch of false starts, a bunch of other penalties that also slowed this offense down. And I know you weren't able to watch that, Dave, because you were busy rooting for your team, but
Yeah, I
it was
watched a
it
good
was
amount of
really
highlights.
electric watching live.
Yeah, I bet it was. Those games, I always feel like these are kind of sneaky noon games, 11 o'clock for them, local. I think Texas should really lean on the running game the next couple weeks against teams that are not the best. Brooks and Baxter. Baxter had a big 54-yard run, and then they got some other guys in there running here and there. But if you want to lean on Brooks and Baxter, why not? I mean, as a team, they had 37 carries for 230, and those guys are right around 200 of them. 30 carries for 200 yards for 2 touchdowns. So I'd lean on them, give Murphy some play action, easy throws, and they ran for 230 as a team compared to 43 for Kansas State. So their defense did a good job. Um, one more follow-up question I had about some quarterback stuff before we go to the next game. Would you rather
Mhm.
you have a quarterback that throws at absolute fastballs every play, or would you rather they have that, or them just kind of float it in there and have too much touch? Because we both probably have had quarterbacks. I know State had Andrew Maxwell, cannon of an arm, no touch. But then you have a guy kind of like Hauser, not really a great arm, but he's got touch. It's kind of a weird thing. What would you prefer?
Yeah, and just rewind real quick because that's a great question. But that long touchdown run was a fake QB sneak pitch out to the right.
Oh,
Beautiful play,
I like
Sark.
that.
With how popular the QB sneak has gotten, he kind of like took a false step in and then just pitched it out,
Mm.
and it was a really really good play. And he broke a tackle and scored a touchdown on it. I think that was a fourth down play too.
Mm.
But I think accuracy wins. So if you're when you say touch, would I rather have a QB who is accurate and on time, but doesn't necessarily have the arm strength to fit in super tight windows or push the ball super vertically? I'd rather have an accurate guy because I've watched Michigan quarterbacks who have big arms. Who can throw it 60 yards, but they can't play in rhythm. They can't play in time in the offense. They can't
Hmm.
anticipate throws. And it's awful to watch. So that would be more of my thing because I feel like you get into slumps at times with those quarterbacks with really big arms who are super inaccurate where you can't throw the ball. Where you're
Milton is
incapable.
my thought for
Yeah, yeah,
Michigan guy.
Milton would be the
If he
guy in the
had any
top of
kind
my
of
head.
touch, he would be like Andrew Maxwell was a good Michigan State. He was okay, but man, he could not just kind of just like just a little. He just it was 100%. It was coming at you 80 miles an hour no matter what, and that's kind of why he lost
Right.
the job to Connor Cook. But I just thought that was a good question because it's kind of something that always comes up. But good thoughts. I think that was a fun game. I'm kind of sad I missed it. The highlights were good. We were all wrong on the cover. I think Texas kind of could have, they should have covered, but we were wrong. KSU there with the +4 in overtime.
And that's why this is we cover the betting, but that's not we're not gloating ourselves as experts because Texas is in complete control of the game heading into the fourth
Right,
quarter,
right, yeah.
and they score as time expires in the third, and then another turn. Like that's just
It
some
was
of those
like
things
bang,
where it can
bang,
get
bang. I
weird.
think they had
Yeah.
3 touchdowns within like 5 minutes of playtime. But to the next
Hmm.
game, as KB alluded to, a sacrifice for State to get a win here. Air Force gets completely dominated by a mediocre Army team. Army did everything right. They kind of run more of a shotgun option now compared to traditional triple option like Air Force. Army wins 23-3. I think the Commander in Chief trophy will be kind of up for grabs. If Army beats Navy, they got it. But if they lose to Navy, I'm not too sure how that tiebreaker works. Um, Rushing stats, which is big. Bryson Daly for Army had 36 carries, 172 touchdowns. Zach Larrier, 20 carries for 45 yards. That's the quarterback for Air Force. He also was 9 for 22 for 93 yards and 2 interceptions. And I saw some highlights of this game, and man, when he threw a couple balls, they were terrible. I mean, I think he is probably an okay quarterback, all things considered, but Air Force got completely smothered. Um, Army had a big run in the first quarter. They scored 17 and 6 in the first 2 quarters, and then didn't score again. So kind of a slow second half there. But Army just came out hot. They slew Air Force down. Air Force couldn't get anything rolling. And like KB kind of alluded to, Army is a team that's used to seeing this in practice, even though they're kind of a different style now, but it's still an option run. And Army did everything right to, there's a lot of pride in the line for these guys. And, they laid it all on the field and they got a good win against a pretty good Air Force team.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm so smart. I knew what I was talking about when I predicted this.
Correct.
No, I mean, when you turn the ball over 6 times to
Oof.
0, and you start the game off with turning it over from your own 34 on downs after they started the game off with a touchdown, then you fumble it on your next possession in your own territory, then you fumble it on your next possession on your own territory, then you turn it over on downs, then you kick a field goal, and then you throw an interception, you're never going to win.
Yeah, I've
They just dug themselves. They just played.
they
Their
played their
college
worst
football
game.
team. They just played an awful game. You have 6 turnovers. You turned over on downs 2 other times in the first half. Like
Yep. I have
that's
to
just
shout out Army's defense. I'm gonna have co-defensive players for Army. I'm gonna go Leo Lowen, 12 total tackles, 9 solo, a sack, and 2 for loss. Then I got Bo Nicholas Paul with 2 picks for Army. I mean those two guys, huge for them. I'm not sure who had the fumble recoveries, but I mean they had.
let me look
That's
actually
bad on
and
Air Force. I
see.
didn't look at that stat line. Yeah, 6 turnovers. You're not really gonna win a game unless your defense is just playing
Yeah,
godly.
Bo Nicholas Powell had both interceptions,
Yep.
and
And then
then 4 different guys.
okay,
So Ciarlo, Leo Lowen had a fumble recovery,
good.
Dre
Okay,
Miller,
throw that in
and
there.
Jack Latore. So I mean, it was just a stifling defensive performance. Air Force couldn't literally hold on to the ball, and that's how you lose. I mean, I would love to see like the stats on if you're -6 on turnover margin, like
They only lost by
that was
20.
a close
In
game.
the
Yeah.
under, hit once again. Never get let down by an academy under. Just so you guys know, it's like 44 or 43 and 9, and like maybe there's a couple pushes in there, and like since like 2005 or something, it's the under usually hits in these games,
Can,
and
can,
it's
can Iowa
crazy.
join the academies because
10 to
their
7.
unders
Their unders
are
always hit too.
absolutely it is lower. I think it's
This week is
27 this
like
week.
28 and a half with Rutgers.
Oh my lord,
It's
dude.
crazy.
Absolutely. I love it. It's gross and nasty and makes me want to kind of die a little bit, but love it. Not to distract, we're not covering Iowa and their shit show of an offensive performance,
Yeah.
even though Ferentz is officially going to be fired.
Yep.
Brian. So shout out to Kirk for keeping his kid on staff for two
Yeah,
seasons too
I,
long,
I will say,
probably.
looking forward to the Army Navy game to end the year. It's always a week after everything else, so there's kind of a lot up for grabs for Army. I don't think they'll be, unless they go on a stretch here and win, 3 games to go to a bowl game. But they have Holy Cross, winnable, Coastal, which might be a tough game, and then Navy. So maybe they could win out. I don't know if they beat Coastal, but they could be fighting for a bowl game there and the Commander in Chief trophy, which is, a bummer to see Air Force lose. They just 6 turnovers, you're not going to win a game. KB was right with the plus 18.5, and obviously they covered easy there with the 20-point win. Any other thoughts on this one, KB?
Nope, we are cooking and moving along here.
Yes, sir. Next game, Mizzou 21, number 2 Georgia 30. I want you to take this one away. I have some thoughts, but would love to hear your take on the game.
I mean, It's just, it sucks. I think this Georgia team, they're probably going to be undefeated in whoever they play in the SEC championship game. Almost 99% chance it's Alabama, unless Alabama loses two and Ole Miss wins out and beats Georgia this weekend. Um, it's just there's chinks in this armor where you didn't necessarily see that for much of this year. Now Missouri's a good football team,
Yeah.
definitely better than I guess most people thought going into the season. But you look at kind of how this played out, and Missouri threw this game away, and it was Brady Cook,
Brady
and
Cook. Yeah.
Brady Cook has played absolutely phenomenal football for the majority of the season. Um, and his two interceptions on back-to-back series killed him.
Yep.
Uh, they were running the ball super effectively. They Cody Schrader had 22 carries for 112 yards. Brady Cook had 10 for 39. He had a lot more than that too, but sacks
Facts.
count negative in rushing, so I'd have to go through to see what his actual rushing yards were. Georgia dropped into a zone and Cook struggled to get through the zone progressions and find the gaps because I think what Cook does really well is he finds a mismatch and knows what that route's going to be because he has some good receivers on the outside like Luther
He
Burden
only got
who
the ball
had
3 times.
three
How
times.
many
He did
targets
get
did he get
injured in
though?
this game, a lot.
Yeah.
They Georgia's defensive backs are, really really solid in this game.
Yeah.
But the one thing is just like Brady Cook lost them the game, and like it's shitty to say, but they were. It was
The
a close
first pick.
game,
The first pick was really bad on the screen.
and it was a screen or maybe it felt like more like maybe a tight end delay, like drag route across,
Ugh.
and he threw it directly into the
Just
stomach of
gotta
the big
eat
guy.
that, man. Eat it.
Now the big guy caught it and ran with it and played very well, but it just sucks to see. Georgia's a great team, and I think they're getting better weekly from a completeness standpoint.
Hmm.
But you just don't really like to see. Brady Cook. He was 14 of 30 for 212 yards, two picks on the day, and that's one of those things where you just make too many mistakes. You have to play perfect football to beat a team like this. Dave, I know you weren't able to watch this, but
I watched a little
did you
bit when
catch
I
the end?
left the game, and then I watched the. I mean, I saw the pick, the screen, so I watched what the second half. Um, Missouri did cover. Sam and I were right. KB was wrong on the cover on this one. I thought Missouri.
Wait, I thought you both took Georgia and I took Mizzou.
Um, no, we took Mizzou and Sam took Georgia. My fault.
Okay, I was gonna say I was like I'm fairly certain I took
KB, yeah,
Mizzou.
we were on the same page. My bad. Promo guy slash Sam took Georgia, so Sam was wrong. We were both right. I thought Mizzou played a tough game. I don't know how I feel about those yellow face masks. I just gotta throw it out there. I'm a big uniform guy. I like their color scheme and their uniforms. Usually, the yellow face mask was a little bit of a questionable decision. Um, but I do think Missouri's a good team, like you said. They played them really tough. I thought their defense did pretty good for all things considered. Like you said, Brady Cook kind of gave him the game. Hopefully, Luther Burden's good. I think he's a difference maker. So I'd like to see him have more catches here. Cody Schrader had a good game running wise, but Georgia's a better team. Beck didn't make any mistakes. That's the difference. They ran the ball decent, nothing special for Georgia. And then Ladd had a good game, and then a bunch of other guys had 3 or 4 catches. Lovett, who's a transfer from Mizzou, had a touchdown against his old team, and Oscar Delp, the backup tight end, also had a touchdown. So their defense is solid, getting the job done, and then their offense did what they had to do with their best player out. And Carson Beck is just being consistent and not making mistakes, and that's the difference. Even though Missouri was tough and they did cover
Yeah, and like I said, this wasn't a bad performance by Mizzou. It was just two back-breaking mistakes at
back
the
to
end of the
back.
game that can push this game out of reach. It was a hard fought effort. Mizzou's defense played really well in my opinion. They limited to kind of Carson Beck, who had been dicing and slicing teams up pretty effectively. He was 21 to 32, but he was held to 7.9 yards an attempt. Wasn't able to really push the ball down the field, which he had been doing in the previous weeks.
Hmm.
Just overall great performance on both sides. Really fun game to watch, and it does suck. But in both of Mizzou's losses, there's been critical interceptions down the stretch that Cook has thrown that has
Yeah.
put games away and taken them out of it. So I still love Cook, but turnovers, especially late in games, seem to be kind of a
Dagger. The LSU game
issue.
was like a dagger because that was going to be a
Yeah, it was
cover.
a pick six.
Yeah, it was going
Yeah,
to
I
be a
mean they were
cover
down
too.
by 3 with the ball, and he threw a pick six.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
But
looking forward to Mizzou down the stretch here. Obviously, they're not going to be in the championship game for the SEC, but they have Tennessee, Florida, and Arkansas. Florida and Arkansas both are not good. I think Arkansas beat Florida in the last minute this weekend, and I'd love
hmm
to see them beat Tennessee. I think Tennessee's overrated, so I'd love to see them run the table and win 10 games. But we'll cover games down the road. Any more thoughts on this game, KB?
no, we're all good. Fun game. SEC providing us with a great one. Dave, what do we have next? What's next on
We
the
got Bedlam,
schedule?
and I was right, baby. OK State money line 27-24. Shout
Man, what
out
a
shout out
game.
Alan Bowman, just 28 for 42, 334, no touchdowns, no picks. Just a game manager. Ali Gordon, 33 carries, really doing his job. Carrying the team, carrying the load. 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. Um, Dylan Gabriel, I thought did okay. I don't. And then kind of shout out what promo guy Sam said here. Drake Stoops, 12 catches, 134 and a touchdown. His weird white little receivers just getting open. I remember I was watching the game and he was open all the time and he would just toss it. I just remember watching him tossing the ball back to the ref like 8 times on like a little out or something. OK State, fun. What a fun win. Last time these guys play in Bedlam for I don't know how long. Hopefully they figure something out with the the conference realignment. Defense was pretty good for them. I thought Venables kind of gave the game away once again, turtled. In OK State, did what they had to do, and they got a win. Also, shout out Rashad Owens, 10 catches, 136. OK State's offense did their job, and then Ali Gordon just kind of did what he had to do, and Bowman also had a rushing touchdown. So good on them, and just a good win overall.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, everything you just said is exactly how I feel. I would like to say, I mean, Oklahoma held Gordon in check. I know saying like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, he let up that many yards, but no, like that dude has been getting 200
Yeah.
a week. Like holding him to that on 33 carries was it's not like mind-boggling. It's not like they made him do nothing, but to hold him to that, like that's a good defensive performance. But Alan Bowman, you said game manager, man. If throwing for 334 yards is game managing,
Right.
then put him in any college, conference. I want him throwing the ball for me. I think Oklahoma had a game plan to, tighten up gaps, and Oklahoma State was happy to, put the wheel in Bowman's hands. I mean, he's a former Michigan guy, Michigan graduate, so all love goes out to him. He's had a crazy career. He had some
He was
injuries at
okay at
Texas
Texas
Tech.
Tech too.
Yeah,
I
then he
remember.
just had injuries, and then he lost his starting job because of it. Goes to Michigan as second/third string. Didn't have to play much with Cade and
Easy way to get
JJ
healthy
there.
for a year.
He's there for 2 years, which is wild to
Oh, two
think about.
years.
And
Damn.
yeah,
What
and
is he?
then
27.
he's up there definitely. He's an older guy, but then you go in and you see him, and he came to play. And this Oklahoma State team, I mean, Gundy does such a good job, such a unreal job of managing everything and getting his guys up for this game. The
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I want to talk about is Oklahoma. Now, Dylan Gabriel was 26 of 37 for 344, but they averaged their two running backs averaged 8.5 and seven
I was
points
gonna say
on the
something about that.
ground, and they had 13 carries and 8 carries apiece. And I just think with that offense, with that hurry up offense where you're trying to get people lined up and just trying to go, 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 there's so many situations where Oklahoma it's a zone read, it's a read option, and you're not just handing the ball off. Like I get mad at Michigan a lot of the times because I think JJ should be reading and actually reading more often because it's a give 95% of the time, 99% of the time, and is if you can put that to five. But I feel like Gabriel pulled a lot in this game, even when you don't necessarily need to. Like there's examples where it's 3rd and 3 and like let's just run the ball. Let's manage this. I think another good thing is that OK State kind of limited some of the possessions with so many long drives. Oklahoma State, they let up 27 or Oklahoma let up 27 points. And OK State, you know, for all the things they've been pouring stuff on the last few weeks, that offense like you said, turtled,
Don't
and they
forget,
just
OK State got shut out by South Alabama.
South Alabama.
So good for this team for figuring it out, and I think the difference maker is Ali Gordon. Obviously, they feed the guy, but just a great turnaround. Good job by on Gundy here. Figuring out your offense and your defense stepping up in games. I think the keys are for them to take the Big 12 to go to the championship at least, to probably play Texas if they win out. I don't think they play Texas. No, they play
Yeah,
at
they have
UCF, at
UCF,
Houston,
UCF.
BYU.
Yeah,
All three
so
winnable games.
yep, and I think the thing too is we have to shout out Gundy. If they get to the Big 12 championship game, he is coach of the year, and
I wouldn't
he's been
disagree.
a coach that is so willing to change, so willing. Like if it isn't working, we're switching it up. We're
Tell
doing
our
something
coaches
different.
that. Good fucking lord.
Yeah,
Please.
I mean we'll get there later, but he's
Yeah.
just so willing to change, so willing to be like our offense isn't working. And they talked about it. Let's go to more pistol sets. Let's get them the running back 7 yards deep instead of 5. Let's give them more time to be coming downhill. And it's just been absolutely incredible to see kind of how this has worked out. And Oklahoma, I mean, I don't want to call them frauds because OK State I think is a good team who just got off to a really weird start. Um, but
Venables does
it's
not know
giving
how
me
to
fraud
coach.
vibes.
Like it's
It's just
just like you have talent, you have a good quarterback, you have running backs that are hot. Drake Stoops is doing everything he can do for you, and you just like turtle, and you're not aggressive enough. You're playing not to lose. When you play not to lose, you lose. You got to play
yeah.
to
I mean,
win.
492 yards only putting up 24 points is kind of crazy.
Hmm.
Um, that should be, at least in the 30s when you're putting up basically 500 yards of offense.
Yeah.
And it's just not being efficient. Uh, and it's just one of those things. They also threw another pick for Gabriel in one of these big games.
Mm.
So playoff chances are over for Oklahoma. You'd like to see them have bounced back. I think that's what kind of me and Sam were predicting. Dave had that feeling that OK State's riding the hot streak,
Hmm.
and it's just
Give me
this
the
has been
state
such a
school no matter what in this kind of games.
yeah.
I gotta say, KB and I were both 2-2 on picks. Promo guy Sam, I don't think he's got one yet. I just had to bring that up. He'll probably get one later on, but he might make you some money. But his picks right now are not the best, and I love him, so I just had to give him a little dig at him so far.
Yeah.
But I think this is a fun game. I'm glad I was right. I love picking the state school in these kind of games, even though the series goes towards obviously Oklahoma for 90 plus wins here. Hopefully they figure out to play this game in the future. This is always a fun game. You're Michigan, I'm Michigan State. In my opinion, it's a very similar type vibe game. Get this series going in the next couple of years. It's going to make you money, and it's just fun for college football.
Absolutely.
All right, probably to the game of the week. No defense was here. I watched this game. I had this game on, the Michigan game on, the LSU Bama game, and then like a throwaway game was on the other one. But just a great prime time slate in my opinion. Two big games. This game was Washington 52, USC 42. I think Penix, probably got, probably shot. He didn't have a crazy game, so the Heisman's going to be weird this year. I don't really know yet. I thought he had more yards. He really didn't. I think shout out KB might have the offensive play of the week, so I won't say anything else. KB, anything else you want to say to start this one off
Yeah.
before I take it
Well,
from you?
I was gonna say he didn't have to throw for a lot of yards because
No.
Dylan Johnson, 256 yards, 4 touchdowns,
Hmm.
9.8. Alex Grinch got fired today because he's such an
Did
inept
he?
coach. Yeah,
Yeah,
he got
they showed him all the time. Like
yeah.
he was having a headache.
This was a miserable performance. Unbelievable that you can allow this Washington team hasn't ran the ball well.
No.
Like they've had to throw the ball. And this USC defense looks small, doesn't tackle well, and slow. And I know this is year 2, but you brought in all these transfers and you've wasted a generational quarterback,
I
a guy
just
that's been incredible that already has a Heisman, and it just doesn't matter simply because you cannot stop anyone. You cannot do anything. You can't.
I would
It's just
say Lincoln Riley
absolutely
has had
unbelievable.
Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield. He had Fields for what, a year, and then now he has Caleb Williams, and he hasn't won a conference championship. I think
Fields,
he went to Oklahoma for a year. Not Fields.
Rattler.
Jalen Hurts. My bad.
Oh, Hurts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it hurts for
Hurts.
your Oklahoma. And I don't think he won a conference championship one time with those four guys.
Yeah, he did. He hasn't won a playoff game
Okay,
though,
playoff. My
right?
bad. Something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
think
But
that's
I mean,
I think
just the
that's what you were
talent,
thinking.
there with those four guys. They were all high picks. And Caleb Williams, who's probably another, top five pick. Um, Obviously, their offense is scoring points, and Caleb Williams is doing everything he can, juking, spinning, finding time. He's slippery, dude. Just when he scrambles and gets some yards, he'll do a weird little slow spin move, and he'll get a couple extra yards. Obviously, he had 10 carries for 16 yards. There's some sacks probably in there, but he's slippery, athletic. I saw some stuff online about him getting emotional after the game, and some people are talking smack about it. I kind of go both ways on it. Guy's giving his all, and they can't win in big games, so I feel for the kid. Um, he had a good game, 27-35, 312, three touchdowns. Taj Washington was kind of his go-to, 8 catches, 122 and a touchdown. But just no defense. Washington did enough towards the end to shut them down. And like you said, Dylan Johnson just ran all over their asses. 4 touchdowns, 256 yards. Just, yeah, I love to see it. And Penix did what he had to do. He didn't have to do anything crazy. He threw a pick. He had decent yards and 2 touchdowns. But it's good to see that they can be kind of balanced. I think that will help them down the road if they get to the playoff, which they should, in my opinion. This is a really fun game to watch, though. Just back and forth for a while, and then the fourth quarter was the difference. And you know, shout out also to I think Washington's defender Zion Tupula Fatuai. His dad just passed away, I think last week, and he still played. He had a sack and a half, 4 tackles. So shout out to him for playing
And
and
a forced fumble
in a
that got
forced fumble,
recovered.
which is big. So shout out to him for playing, and he said his dad would want him to play, so I totally respect that and I get it. So just want to shout him out, and the Huskies, Promo guys team, got the win, and the picks on this one was Sam picked USC plus 3.5. KB and I took the dogs to cover, which they did. So I know Promo guy is big on the Huskies, but he picked against them, and KB and I got the win.
Yeah, I think a thing too is USC ran the ball really effectively, but didn't go to it a lot. I know you want to put the ball in Caleb Williams' hands,
Mm-hmm.
but when your defense is struggling as badly as theirs
We talked
is,
about this like last week. They
you
don't run
don't want to
enough.
put them on the field. Like their whole entire offensive strategy, they cannot continue to
Austin
quickly
Jones should
score.
have like 15 to 20 carries if he's getting 100 a game. I'm pretty sure. Or we've talked about it at least once or twice before.
Yeah, I mean, so their big guy Marshawn Lloyd, he was out for this game, so they had to activate the freshman who was the guy who had all the yards in this game, Austin Jones, and he had 11 carries for 127. And I know you want to put the ball in Caleb Williams' hands. He's by far the best player on the field.
Mm.
But when your defense is this bad, you can't let them. I mean, it was so bad, and it's just disappointing because you know what this team could look like, and they just don't
Just being a little
have the
more
strength.
balanced would go a long way.
Yeah, and it's just, and alongside the balance, it's just like protecting yourselves. Like you're so skilled offensively because I feel like the fast flowing lineup, quickly run plays one after another after another after another is like a gimmicky offense. And I don't mean gimmicky in like a poor way, but it's like that's when you don't have the athletes that can win. That's when you don't have a top 5 quarterback. Is when you need to do things to put the defense at such a huge disadvantage. But because they're scoring so quickly and because they're so based off explosives, they're hurting themselves because their defense
Hmm.
is not even standing in the way. They have Oregon this week coming up. They might let up 600 yards rushing.
Yeah, Bucky
Like
Irving is really good.
Bucky Irving's great. This guy, I mean, it's disappointing. We can kind of rate on it, but we also have to shout out Caleb Williams. Like Dave said, he got emotional after the game. That dude wants to win. We talked about how he might not be into it. And I didn't mean like he wouldn't try. It's just the sharpness and being, as cleanly invested. And I mean, he played one of his best games on the season. He was super important to this team. Whenever they needed to play, he made it.
Hmm.
Just at the end of the day, 52 points, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just you're letting up too many points. It's the worst Power 5 defense, I think, in the country. And they just I mean, you'd be better rushing three and playing prevent, like just to force teams not to score so quickly on them.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious if they come out, the whoever takes over for D coordinator since they fired the guy. Yeah, they showed him a lot on the sidelines, and he looked lost. I'm not for anybody getting fired, but that's college football. He'll find a job somewhere else probably. So best of luck to him. But he's got to figure out his schemes. Shout out to Caleb Williams for giving his all, and we'll see how they do against Oregon next week. We'll definitely cover that game. But shout out to the Dogs, the Huskies. They should run the table here and get to the Pac-12 championship, which has been the Pac-12 has been fun to watch to say the least. Next game was just another phenomenal game here, back and forth until the end. Unfortunately Daniels got hurt. Bama pulls out a 42-28 win against LSU at home. Um, Jalen Milroe stepped up big time here. Looked good throwing the ball, 15 for 23, 219. Ran the ball so well, 4 touchdowns. I thought Jace McClellan, when he got the ball, he was slippery. He only had 63 yards on 14 carries, but I think they just controlled the ball. 46 carries for 288. Nothing crazy, but 6 touchdowns on the ground here for Bama. And once, the hit on Jaden Daniel could be maybe targeting for some people. I don't think so. Looked like a clean hit, and the guy's helmet just kind of hit him in the jaw, which sucks to see. And he got pulled for percussion, not percussion, concussion protocol. But he was slinging it around. He was doing pretty good. He was running well. He had 163 yards. Neighbors had a big game, 10 catches for 171. But when he got taken out, their offense kind of just was sputtered. I thought Nussmeier looked okay, but the difference was Alabama's offense and LSU's defense is also not that great. So Milroe really stepped up here for Bama to get the win.
Yeah, we had talked about it for previous weeks. They made a concerted effort to run the ball with Milroe. They
They
didn't
did.
just give him scrambles, which he did scramble a few times. They didn't just do some of the. They gave him some carries, and I think that helped open up this offense, and it really put them in such a good spot from an offensive standpoint against a really bad LSU defense. Right,
Hmm.
another team that just can't get out of
They
its
probably
own
had the
way. It
best
seems
offense in the
offensively.
country with Jaden
Yeah,
Daniels.
yeah, maybe the best offense in the country as a top to bottom. And Alabama continues to have incredible second halves, by the way. They let up one score on the first drive coming out of the half. Then they went punt, interception, punt, downs. And that was one of the things talking about coming into this game. They limited what LSU could do. They didn't give them a ton of second half. I'm just looking here. So this is when Jaden Daniels was still in the game. One punt, he throws an interception on the next drive, and then the next series is when Jaden Daniels got injured. So I mean, they ran 2 series in the second half, or 3 series in the second half with Jaden Daniels, and they scored on 33% of them a touchdown. But when you can control the ball, run it, completions after completions, the big number that kind of stuck out to me is Alabama was 11 of 14 on third down.
Lordy, that's really good.
They got to
Huge.
14 third down situations compared to 9 on LSU, and they completed 11 of them compared to 4 third downs for LSU. And that's just, it's good offense in some cases, right? You're probably putting yourselves in a ton of manageable situations, but that is god awful defense. And being able to stop anyone to get in that many situations on third down, not being able to do anything, kind of speaks about that. I think this LSU team, they're a good football team, and I really like kind of what they've done here. But who's their win?
Hmm?
They beat Missouri. That's their best win.
Yeah, yeah.
It was at home. It was a pick six in a really high scoring game, but they beat Auburn. They beat Army. Arkansas was a 3-point game. They beat Mississippi State. They beat Grambling, and they have 3 losses to good teams. But they haven't beaten a great team on their
Right.
schedule that they've yet to play. Maybe you'd argue Missouri, but they also finished the season with Florida, Georgia State, and A&M, so they can win out and get to that kind of 9-win plateau that they've kind of been
Brian
at.
Kelly, right?
Um,
That's what he does.
Yep, Brian Kelly, they're going to win that. Hopefully, Jaden Daniels is healthy. He's been playing incredible.
Yeah.
I know you traditionally don't give Heisman's out to teams that aren't necessarily winning
I
their
think
conference
Johnny Football
championship.
won it when they're like 9-4. Did they go to the
Yeah,
SEC championship that year?
yeah.
Oh,
No, they didn't. They
but
didn't.
like Lamar too. I don't remember.
Yeah, but he's putting up historic numbers. He had 219 through the air and 163 on the ground with 3 TDs.
Yeah,
Um, I think that he 100% has to be invited, and he should finish at worst two. And the only way you finish him at worst two is if Penix finishes the season undefeated and puts up some huge numbers,
hmm,
or if Bo Nix avenges his loss and puts up some huge
that'd be
numbers.
cool.
Those are really my top three. Obviously, JJ's been playing great on an undefeated team, but just doesn't necessarily have the numbers that those guys have. Although I wouldn't be entirely at all surprised if he gets invited, because go Blue Wall. But
um,
it's just an incredible performance, a great game. Alabama's defense continues to, like I said, you don't score on them at half. I think they've let up 7, 3, 7, 0, and 3 in their SEC games in the second half.
very
So
good.
they're just absolutely tightening up the clamps and putting them in really productive space. And their offense put up 42 points.
Hmm.
Um, Alabama still has, I think they still have one
I mean, they
big
played that
game left.
Iron Bowl, but besides that, I'm
Yeah,
not too sure.
they have Kentucky, Chattanooga, Auburn. So would be sorely surprised if they don't win all those games with an
Hmm.
opportunity to beat Georgia, undefeated in SEC play,
That would be
and
fun.
go. I mean,
I
two
got two
teams. I mean, who
thoughts.
do you? Yeah, yeah.
We had a clean sleep of picks. Sam got his first win. Shout out Sam.
Oh yeah.
But I said this in our group chat. I don't know if it was with you and Sam or with my other group chat, but like I usually don't like Bama, but I like this Bama team. They're tough. They've kind of been struggling on offense, and Saban's a smart enough coach to figure it out. Tommy Reese has kind of hit his stride as our old coordinator. We were talking mad shit about him earlier in the season, but we figured it out. And kind of like we said, you have to run the ball with Milrow. We said that in like week 3, and now look at us. What do we know? Some kids in from Michigan, one living in Arizona. We know college football a little bit. We said run with him, and that opens up your offense, and that's what it did. So it's just crazy that I kind of like a Bama team. I usually hate them, but I think they're tough. Their defense is very good, and they can run the ball well. So I'm actually looking forward to watching them keep going here, and I hope they kind of test Georgia once they both make it to the SEC championship.
Yeah, that's Dave. That's fantastic, and I agree. I think this is a likable team because they don't have all the fancy, expensive weapons
Hmm.
at all their positions. They don't have a Bryce Young Heisman guy. They don't have a Devonta Smith, the best wide receiver, Jerry Judy, Henry Ruggs. They don't have a plethora of
They
weapons.
had
It
so many
feels
good
like
receivers that year. Holy,
yeah, it feels like it's more early 2000s where you like the Alabama teams before they won like 6 championships or whatever they have, where they
right?
were played hard-nosed football, they relied on their defense, they stopped the run, and they were super good at just winning games. When it
Yep.
comes down to it, they've won these games. They haven't looked great week in and week out at times, but they've been
Yeah.
getting better week in, week out. Their offense has been figuring it out, and like I said, I think their defense is. I think they played some really good offenses that have pushed them, but in the second half, it's just an unbelievable performance,
Mm.
and that's what elite defenses do. Is they don't get bullied in the second half. Bad defenses, they get out physicaled in the second half because they're tired. And good defenses and great defenses, they play with more vigor
Mm.
after the halftime break, and that's what you've seen out of this group. And like you said, Dave, we do have to commend Tommy Reese because he's been
He
doing
figured
a
it out.
great job.
So
He
good for
figured
them.
it out.
Yeah, looking forward to watching them. I don't think we'll cover any more of their games really until the SEC championship, but I'll keep an eye on them because I just kind of like the team this year. But to our next game before our games is UCLA Zona. Zona just kind of has a dominating win, 27-10. I only watched like the first quarter, first half. Fafita looked good. He throws a really good ball, honestly. Fun fact, they probably show you 20 more times throughout the year, but him and McMillan went to the same high school. They had like 33 touchdowns between the two. That's like Jaden Reed and Peyton Thorne type thing. You hear about it all the time. But it seems like Arizona did a good job. UCLA's offense was middling. I think 3 quarterbacks played, Gabers, Moore, and Sheely. Nobody did anything great. They didn't run the ball that well, and Arizona kind of has a really good offense, and they did enough here to have a 17-point win. You probably had watched more than I did, KB. So what are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, they're the best three-loss team in the country, or if they're not, they're right next to LSU. Fafita is an absolute dog. He threw for 300 yards, 3 TDs, still had his pick. But it was one of those games where I thought that the pass rush and kind of the front seven depth and getting after Fafita would affect him. And he looked poised. He got hit a good amount in this game, and he kept it under pressure. Their defense put up a great game. I know this isn't an elite UCLA offense.
Shout out
They
Sam
have
for
some
calling the
coverage.
under.
Yeah, shout out Sam. That was a
Under
great pick.
15 and a half hit. Also, I
I
picked
picked.
Arizona.
Yep, I picked UCLA. I think I
So
was the only
I'm
one who
up
picked
five
UCLA.
four. Have a week. We both got screwed on our games. No, we didn't hit on those, but this was the deciding factor. And I had a good week finally. I've been down in the dumps. I don't bet on all these games, but this is fun, and I got to take a little bit of kudos for myself because it's been bad. But sorry, KB, continue your thoughts.
No, and I was just surprised this Arizona defense, this
Yeah.
this UCLA offense hasn't been this bad. They
Hmm.
haven't looked this bad outside of Utah, obviously, and Arizona shut them down. They didn't look good. They were really productive, and when a team gets hot, they're hot. And this Arizona team is playing, like I said, the best football they played from year to date. They have a scheduled meeting with Colorado next weekend, which should be some offensive fireworks for Fafita, and then they have Utah and they can knock Utah out of the top 15 conversation as well. If they go undefeated, Jed Fish, I mean, this has been an incredible turnaround for the
Yeah.
season. And it looks great. You're leaving, you're going into the Big 12, who's losing two of their, more top of
They
the
fit the Big
line
12 mold with their
atmosphere.
offense.
Yeah, with their offense, with their playmakers on the outside. So I think just this turnaround has been so incredible to watch. And I think the thing that we need to most talk about is that for college football, you can get better week in and week out. And this is an example of it. In the same way that Alabama has grown, Arizona has grown leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
This team lost to Mississippi State at home. Jaden Delore threw 3 or 4 picks in that game. And
Or
now they've turned it all around with a new quarterback who is slinging the rock.
he's an athlete too.
And
He's
and
he's really
if
good at
you,
getting around.
yeah, he avoids pressure. I mean, it's just there's not enough you can say about how cool it is to see this growth from a team that was kind of dead in the water at a point in the season, and they have a tough loss to Washington, they have a close loss to USC, and they've picked it up and they've just been playing terrific football, which is awesome to
Are
see.
you going to go to the Arizona State game?
No,
Do they play for
because
like a
it's
chair or something? I can't remember what the trophy is.
Yeah, I don't know what the trophy is. I have tickets. I think Natalie, my wife, and then some of her friends are gonna go because
Oof.
that's Michigan OSU,
Oh,
and
of course, big
I'm
game.
not missing. Respectfully, I'm not missing that to
It's
go
probably a
watch
night
two
game
teams
though.
who.
It's TBD.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but I would highly doubt me going. Like it would be a less than 1% chance.
Yeah, something else I want to bring up we didn't talk about since we're kind of talking Pac-12. Don't forget Washington's stretch here down the road. They have Utah at Oregon State and then home for the Apple Cup against Washington State. So, I think they're doing great. I think they kind of came back up to where they should be this week and playing, but they have a hard stretch here to end the season. So just keep an eye on them. I think they keep winning, but college football is crazy. Like you said, week to week can change. So I just want to bring that up. We'll probably cover these games, of course, but just keep an eye on Washington staying undefeated. But any more thoughts on the Pac-12 or the Arizona UCLA game?
Nope, I'm ready to get to our games. Which games do you want to talk about
Let's go.
first?
Let's end on a really high note for myself. So let's talk about Michigan. I did have this game on when I was watching the Washington USC game and the LSU Bama game, and it was just a Michigan win. They ran the ball okay, but JJ would make a big throw. They get on the 5 yard line and they'd punch it in with Corum. He had 3 touchdowns. Samaje Morgan, who I believe is a freshman, had a nice end around. He looked fast as hell on that touchdown. Edwards had a couple good catches as a receiver. Roman Wilson, 9 catches, 143. So, and the defense stifled Purdue. Purdue's not that great. Obviously, there's a lot of things around Michigan right now with the cheating scandal. Stallions resigned or got fired. But the players are playing it. That's what it comes down to. I think Harbaugh's a goofy dude. And watching the handshake between him and Purdue's coach was a quick, no talking. Obviously Purdue's he said some words and he's probably pissed off. So, Purdue is just outmatched. Obviously Michigan's a better team. I don't think they need to cheat to win games. This is evident here, but I think next week is huge for Michigan for Penn State. But just a Michigan win. Their defense did a good job. JJ was efficient as always. And, they punched in the ball in the red zone. So just an easy, nice win for Michigan.
Yeah,
Backdoor cover though
totally.
hurts the heart.
Yeah, backdoor cover. First time they didn't cover against Big Ten teams. Michigan got in their own way in this game and probably played their worst game
Yeah, I thought the
since
first half
Big
was
Ten
kind of
play.
messy.
They had a few drives where the offense didn't really click. Purdue's defense, they run five down. linemen, and they run two backers behind it, and they have one dude 20 yards
They
deep.
run a
So they
5-2.
have, yeah,
Wow, you
it's
don't
like
hear
a
that a
it,
lot.
or maybe it's a 5-1, but you have. I know they have one deep safety that's like 25 yards, and they all run man, and everyone's gunning to stop the run. It's the Illinois defense that they ran last year, which was like a top five
Yeah, they're really
defense
good. Well,
nationally,
they had
and
Witherspoon
no
and
one. Yeah, I
really
mean
good.
they just didn't have the Purdue just doesn't have the playmakers on the outside to run that aggressive of a system.
Hudson Card is
It's
also not good. Gotta say it.
yeah. Just some concerns. There was, like I said, 3 or 4 drives where Michigan didn't find a rhythm offensively. JJ was good in this game. I mean, he had a season high in yards, 24 of 37 for 335. He should have had a touchdown. It went right through Cornelius Johnson's hands, but neither here nor there. I think the thing that worries me, though, and this isn't like a big worry, it's just his feet got a little happy after he got hit a few times in the pocket. He wasn't going through his footwork as efficiently as he had in previous weeks. And there's a more than one occasion where JJ, and this is kind of what we saw in the Illinois game last year, is JJ sees man, or he gets a man look, and they shift to zone, or it's a zone look and shifts to man, and he knows the route and pre-snap knows where he should go with the ball. And it seems like he was slower at post reading the defense, right? Because you get the snapshot before the play. This is, oh, this guy has inside leverage and we're running an out route. This is where the ball should go. And then post snap, there's someone that's sitting there in like a cover two or whatever. Not an example from this game, but just and he isn't getting a clear post snap picture on where to transition to next in the reads. There's a few times where bad habits where his feet started getting super happy and he would just tuck to run without like looking where running lanes are and would just run into kind of the pile ahead,
Mm-hmm.
but still played a good game. It was just a little stretch right in the middle from about like after they went up 17, they scored a 3 point after a stop or after the pick, and then
It
about
was
to the
slow
end of the
going for a
third
little bit. It
quarter.
was slow going for a little bit there.
Yeah, and Michigan still turned it on. He had great throws. I mean, you throw for 335 yards, I'm not going to complain. But he just looked a little off on some of the throws where
Mm-hmm.
before it'd be right on the tight end's outside shoulder, and it was a little bit left a little bit inside. You do have a bye week, and I'm sure they prepared a lot more for Penn State during the bye week than this Purdue team. But Michigan also catching punts has been a problem. They turned it
You
over on a
tweet
muff
about
punt
that all
because
the
it
time.
hit a guy in the back. And then they also had an issue where they went from it for their own 30, like 5 yard line. And I don't know why, but Michigan runs like the little wedge play, but they have a wide receiver on the inside that has to block the end. And it's a wide receiver against the defensive end. You're winning that battle 0 times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what led to the stop. So I'm kind of frustrated because they did that play a lot the last 2 years, and it hasn't been successful. But overall, not going to complain about a blowout win where the game was never in question, where you are 100% confident and kind of what you've seen. The running game at this point isn't great, but
You're gonna need it.
I'm still under the presumption that teams are selling out to stop the runs because they don't want to get punched in the mouth. Just the way I see linebackers triggering, the way I see guys moving downhill. Now, do I think they're as good of a line as they were last year? No. And do I think the running game is as good as last year?
No.
No. But teams are just selling out. I'm going to be excited to kind of see what this Penn State team in this next coming week, because they run such a weird, aggressive defense to begin with that sometimes you can hit some holes, and some of those longer runs, those 30-yard runs, 25-yard runs that we saw a lot last year between Edwards and Corum can come back. But that's to talk about another day. Dave, we got to win. First Power 5 win of the season.
Thank God.
Woo! Let's go, baby.
Yeah. So, little quick tailgate in the morning, and I think shout out to the guys for sticking together. I'm gonna shout out Harlan Barnett. He's got his hands full here. He got his first win as a coach. And the one thing you have to say kudos to is keeping this team together. We haven't had a lot of guys leave, here and there. I don't know if anything else happened this week. I didn't see Malik Carr out there. I know Tumisei Adeleye is off the team, but for the most part, the team is stuck together. So shout out to the team. Shout out to Barnett. I don't think any of other coordinators are worth shouting out because I think they're terrible. Um, Everybody knows about how I feel about that. The crowd was pretty good. I don't know. I would say 60, maybe 55,000. Student section was okay. So shout out to the those facets of the game. I will say Hauser looked okay. 13 for 20, 165. Levitt 1 for 2 for 25. I gotta say, uh, we
What are
win.
we doing?
Yeah, you just burn this kid's red shirt, and this is how he comes in. I was talking to some people that I sit with. He comes in on like the 5 yard line. He's got to go 95 yards. Hard task to do. They don't do anything that drive, and then he doesn't play for probably 4 or 5 series, and then he goes in first play trick play. What? What are we doing to this kid? He's a hell of an athlete. He's a good quarterback. He's probably the better of the two. Hauser looked good. His arm is not there. He made good throws, but man, he just has zero zip on the ball and some outside throws that he had to Montoya Foster. Shout out Tyrell Henry for he had a little stretch there in the third quarter where he got like 3 or 4 catches in a row. But you just burned Sam Levitt's red shirt for a 1 of 2. He threw a touchdown, and then after that touchdown, didn't see the field again. So I really don't understand the coaching at all when he is probably the best athlete and best quarterback on the team. We're in a weird spot. Maybe they both transfer out or one transfers out. Kim's pretty much gone. You kind of feel for him a little bit, but I don't understand. If he's playing, he starts the game. He's in the game the whole time. Um, just a weird decision in my opinion. Nate Carter in the running game was mediocre again. Montoya Foster really stepped up, 4 catches, 94 yards. I know Franklin, he's our backup tight end. He had a nice catch down the seam. Um, the offense did okay. I think the running game, I wish we still had it there. Our O-line is not that great, but we did enough to score 20. And, shout out our defense. I've said it the last few weeks. They've been playing good enough to win games. Iowa, winnable. Maryland, they had a bad little stretch in the first quarter, first half. But in the second half, they did really good. Rutgers, they did good enough to win. Michigan, we were just overmatched. But the defense has played well the last 4 or 5 weeks. So shout out to them. They did a great job. Not a big fan of seeing Cal Halliday out there in coverage, but a lot of good young guys did good. Rutgers out there. Khalil Majid, freshman, he had a pick. Um, Barrow, really good. I'm glad he stayed. Uh, we had another pick by Mangum, who I think has 4 picks on the year. He's like top in the conference, so he's doing really good. And Dylan Tatum, another young guy stepping up. So just shout out to the defense for doing a good job. I don't know if Hazelton's a great coordinator, but he's kind of been doing a good job with his team, and it's good to see. I will say towards the end of the game here, we did everything to lose the fucking game. Throwing the
Hmm.
ball, there was a little video of we threw the ball short with like 4 or 5 minutes left, and you just see Coach D, who's no headset on the sideline. He's just kind of there. He's like, what the fuck? Like, just a terrible call. I think he would run the ball, obviously, with his old school thoughts and running and, winning games, which works. So, we had that, and then we lined up for a field goal when we should just try to get a fourth down, and it's just some weird stuff. We had a toss play that I'm 95% sure was to Alante Brown, who's a receiver, that was a trick play, and thank God he didn't throw it because it just doesn't make sense. But the guys, did their best. I really am confused about that fumble, the second to last play of the game, where it looked like the kid was about to throw it, and Barrow just straight up hit it out of his hand. They said it was a fumble, but the guys stood together and won. But the coaching was once again not great. But a win's a win. I would like to see Sam Levitt, play a lot, you know, in the Indiana game, but not next week against OSU. I've been rambling for a while, KB. It's a big win. We needed it. And shout out to Barnett again for his first win as a coach.
Yeah, this Nebraska team was playing really good football, and defensively, I mean, as much as we complain between the two, Hazelton has done a good job of rallying the troops
He
and
has.
playing good defense down the stretch. Um, Henrik Harburg is an awful quarterback.
Yeah, he's
There
athletic,
were,
but he's not good. Like that,
yeah, he's a good athlete,
he
but
threw
there
one
were
pick on
probably,
that like go. He like threw it like a post. It was right
yeah,
to Mangum.
and the worst part is the go was wide open, like
It
the
was
go was
open.
beat. It was as a touchdown. I think if Rule ever gets a quarterback to come up to Nebraska and that can actually play for him, he coaches a very tough team, a very hard-nosed
Yes.
team. But this MSU made it difficult for him. They didn't let him run the ball. They did a good job of stopping that. They pressured Harburg and they managed the
Seven
game.
sacks.
Yeah,
Really good.
and that's incredible. And this O line isn't that bad. So that's really the guys getting after it, good play calls and all that stuff. I think the thing that I do want to turn back to the season's over. Just so we're clear, the fact
Yes.
that you use Sam Levitt in this way
Yeah,
makes me want
it's
to stab
disappointing.
someone with a knife.
I
And
agree.
I don't mean that in like physically doing it. I just like, what are you doing?
If
And,
he
and,
starts,
and
if he plays the game at all, he starts.
Well, like at least okay, you want to put him in? Put him in the second half.
I don't know
Like
what they
let
were
him play
doing
the
because it
second
didn't
half.
make sense because he came in within the 5 yard line and then he didn't come back in until like the third or fourth quarter for that trick play, and then he threw the touchdown pass and then he wasn't in again. It wasn't like every other series. I really don't
He
know what
threw
it
the
was.
game-winning touchdown pass too,
Yeah,
and you just didn't play him. I was extremely confused. I
I
was
agree.
like, I looked at Hauser's number and I was like, oh, he's 13 to 21, 65, a touchdown. Did he get injured? Did he get pulled? And then you see Sam Levitt trotting out there, and I'm like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah,
Because like your red shirt's gone now, so why wouldn't you keep playing him? Obviously OSU next week, but
that's tough.
really, really gritty, hard nosed performance playing a Nebraska team that was on a roll, and MSU is going to have a wagon coming to, you know, to play this coming week. We'll see how it goes, but the thing that we got to kind of take out from this performance is this team's still fighting.
Hmm.
They're still putting out a performance that's respectable. Obviously, not all things are great. The offensive performance hasn't been terrific week in and week out, but that's a win against not a great team, but a good hard nosed team. And for the last home game for technically like senior day,
Hmm.
that's awesome to see. And Harlan Barnett celebrating at the end, you know,
With Izzo is
lifelong
cool.
MSU guy,
Yep, yep.
was really cool to see.
Um, One more thing for me. Listen to this nucleus we could have on defense if everybody stays. Zion Young, um, Chance Rucker, Khalil Majid, Malik Spencer, Jalen Thompson, who was making plays. Man, he's a Detroit kid, and we almost didn't want him. He was really good. He had two sacks and two tackles for loss. He's a really good kid. He's from Cass Tech. Jordan Hall, Dylan Tatum, and Jane Mangum. I mean, those are really good kids. They're all freshmen and sophomores, I believe. I would love to have that core there. Those guys are all really good, in my opinion, and we have a lot of decent talent on defense. So interested to see what happens here to end up the season. We have Ohio State, Indiana, and then Penn State. So two games that are going to be tough. But really interested to see how the team comes out. I don't think OSU is built to destroy us like they've had the last couple years, um, but you never know. We were really up big when we had Kenneth Walker. Like we were ready to go that game and got absolutely dismantled. So I just want to bring up those young guys for our defense. I think that's a good nucleus, a good core to have if they all stay, and would be looking forward to what they could do the next couple years. But I just wanted to bring them up because they played really well this week as well.
Yeah, awesome job, and they can get to Indiana, and maybe they pull one out. I don't think so. I don't even believe so. I don't
Yeah,
even
I don't
hope
think so
so.
either.
But just playing hard nosed and keeping it close. Like you really don't want to see another Michigan happening in the next 3 weeks. And Indiana is playing good ball too. So
They beat
if they lose
Wisconsin.
the
The Big Ten West is just a shit show.
yeah, the worst half of a conference ever. But that wraps it up this week. Thank you again, everyone, for listening. If you
Yes,
guys have comments or questions or teams you want us to kind of hit on, again, we're fans. We're not analysts. We're not breaking down, film. We're watching games, enjoying it, and just college football is the best, man. And
it
it's
is.
something that Dave and I had talked about for a few years, and we finally just said we're doing it. So shout out to you. Anything else you have to say, Dave?
Thanks to Sam again for coming on, promo guy. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the new followers and the listens. Hit us up if you want to tweet at us. You can or email us. It's twofansonepaul at gmail. Um, But yesterday was just one of those games where you're like, God, I love God football. That I said that in one of my group chats. It was just a great night. I had those games on Washington, USC, and then the Bama LSU game. Just games like that is why I love this shit. And it's nice to have a win during a shitty season. So we'll have a nice little preview for you guys in a few days. Michigan's got a big game finally to cover, so I'm looking forward to that. And as always, go green.
Go blue.